Welcome to the Fantasy Pavilion, your home for fantasy sports.
Yes, guys, welcome back to the Fantasy Pavilion, your home for fantasy sport. And we are here with Rob. Big up, Rob. Thanks for coming through, bro.
Jared, my man, how are things?
I'm a little sad, Rob. I'm a little sad.
Why's that?
Sunday's the last day, bro. The last day of the season. It
It is.
flew.
It is. It's been quick. It's been a fast season, hasn't it? I remember it only being, back in July when it was a summer break, and it's like we've still got 9 races ahead of us, and we're already middle of November, and the season's done in for three days' time. So
Yeah. It was, and it was a great season. And at least for me, it was my first time in a long time following the entire thing, especially for the content of the channel. But it was a great season. Obviously, didn't go as well as a lot of certain fans would have wanted. But I at least, to me, it wasn't as action packed to me as some previous ones probably.
yeah,
But of course, Brazil was brilliant, right? Brazil did not let us down at all. What was your thoughts on Brazil?
yeah, it was a mate. What a great spectacle that was. The sprint, we talked about it a lot last week. It was really enthralling. I think everyone thought after Saturday that they'd already got their money's worth, whether you were watching from afar or in person.
Yes.
And then Sunday, there was just as much action as there was on Saturday. I think it was Interlagos just always seems to deliver, I find, the last few seasons. I've always really enjoyed it, and it is probably one of, if not my favorite circuit on the calendar. So always look forward to this race, and it was great to see Mercedes, come out on top. They've really kind of struggled all year. I think it's well documented, and to see them finish a 1-2, awesome result for them, I think.
Yeah, it's definitely a great result, and not even just the race day, but the sprint, the qualifying. First, we had great surprise at the qualifying, and then Russell came in the sprint, won the sprint and the race, and a very commanding result by him as well. It was a all around great weekend, unexpected, of course, and I mean, don't want to go too much in the controversy part, but of course, I did feel a bit. I don't know. I felt sorry for Perez. We know why. I'm not gonna say why, but I just felt it was a bit harsh on him. He
Yeah.
deserved it. He worked his socks off for his teammate and for himself for this season. He could have, but potentially, if it wasn't for team orders, I dare say, Rob, that he could have probably been the one winning the entire championship based on how he started. He started really well, and then obviously, I think it's due to the team orders and other stuff. He just fell off and didn't put as much effort in the middle of the season. I don't know what your thoughts on that.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with a lot of that. I think Checo has taken the back seat most of this season in favor of Max. Understandably,
Of course.
when you're driving with the world champion, you do sometimes have to relinquish those race positions at times, particularly when it's quite close. And the first half dozen races of the season or so, it was very close in the constructor battle between Leclerc and Verstappen, and I think Perez still got out to a really strong start. Red Bull obviously had that disappointing first race in Bahrain, but they seemed to reel it in after that. And Perez, delivered in Monaco. He had a great race in Imola, and then he's also where else did he win again? I think did he win in Singapore? Correct me if I'm wrong. I
No,
could
he
be
didn't
wrong.
win. I think that was his only win for the season. Yeah, but he was
Yes.
doing well
So,
though. But then he just started to
yeah,
drop
look, I
off.
think
Yeah.
I think yeah, I think they've just really favoured Max, and I can see why. But notwithstanding that, Perez is in a great car, and everyone knows he's a proven commodity. So, great result for Max, but this season overall, I think. But a little disappointing to see him act that way. I mean, there's a case to be made for both sides, and I'm not going to get into the politics of who did what right and wrong, but I think over a 6th place in a race, that doesn't mean a lot to Max. You just would have thought he'd take the higher ground, even if there is some kind of untold story to what really was the reason for him. Yeah.
Nonsense. But correction, my fault, people. Yes, he did win Singapore. You're correct, Rob. So he won Monaco and Singapore. Correct.
Yeah. So
I mean, he was doing. I mean, come on, he was doing well. He was doing well.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it was a really interesting race, though. Overall, I think Max and Leclerc fell back quite early with those obvious incidents in the first few laps. The first lap, Magnussen and Ricciardo going out, and then obviously Hamilton and Verstappen clashing on, was it turn 1? So I think, there's a lot of drama, but Russell just seemed to be ahead of the pack the whole time. He didn't seem troubled at all.
No.
Your car reeled it in a little bit, but for the most part, Mercedes' pace has just looked really strong the last couple races.
I agree. Just want to shout out Surin and Antonio. Antonio, hilarious. I want to just look back at the race quickly, then we could move on. It's just us, so we could focus more on the fantasy content for tonight. As you rightfully said, it was a dramatic race from the start. Our boy who did well, K-Mac, who got the first pole ever, ended up DNF early o'clock. That hurt a lot. I wouldn't lie, because I was pretty excited to see what he could have done now, how he could have translated that form to the race. But it wasn't to be. From 10 go up Stroll, right? I have been talking about Stroll a lot. Shout out Stroll. People have been talking Stroll and saying no, but Stroll has been doing really well. Of course, Valtteri Bottas all of a sudden finding back some form, because he as well, like Checo, had a good first start to the season, especially as he moved to a new team, and he was doing really well, at least for his standards, finishing mid-table. Of course, Ocon. I don't hide my favorite driver I like to follow. Of course, and Alpine and McLaren are in a tight battle for that 4th place in the Constructors Series. So, of course, he will be pleased with that. Sergio Perez, a bit lower than normal, 7. Max Verstappen, well, I think you summarized it well enough there. We won't go back there anymore. But we know that Perez and Leclerc are tied for second. So that's also something to look forward to for this particular race on Sunday, if nothing else. And of course, we will be at Island Bay Chill and Grill this Sunday for that, doing a live watch along for the last race. I hate saying that but for the finale, the season finale, let's just say that season finale.
Yeah.
And it should be a cracker, because again, as we said, Perez and Leclerc are fighting for that overall second spot of the entire season. So let's see how that plays off. Continuing up the road, we have, so again, I said Max 6, Fernando Alonso.
Yeah.
Great
race.
Let's talk about him for a little bit. Yes, talk about him for a little bit.
Great weekend for the Alpines. I think.
Yes.
Look, I think that really puts their 4th place in the Constructors beyond doubt. I mean, 19 points isn't end of the matter at all for McLaren, but I find it hard for them to take 19 points off Alpine in one race. But Alonso, I think he's just proven throughout the season that when he has a reliable car and can finish the race, he's in the points almost all the time.
Correct.
So it's great to see him have a renaissance. And I'm really interested to see how he goes next year at Aston Martin. So, yeah, I think not just from a fantasy perspective, but overall he's been one that's probably exceeded my expectations this year.
And to be fair to him, if it wasn't for some of the unlucky series of events, because let's be fair, there were some very, I don't want to say supernatural, but there were some very weird things that just happened to him all of a sudden during the season. And I think if it weren't for some of those, he would have surely finished a bit different, right? It would have been a different contest. He might have finished way higher. You never know. Not probably winning, obviously not, but just finishing a little higher. And as you rightfully said, he is going to Aston Martin next season. I have the lineup here. We'll talk about that as well too. That's something 'cause that's important to fantasy as well, knowing where the drivers are going next season.
Mm.
Right, very important. Of course, going up the road, Charles Leclerc. So Charles had a chance to at least maybe if he had finished third, just a little more, he would have eked out and edged Perez for just at least going into Abu Dhabi. But they're locked on the same amount of points right now. Carlos Sainz third, Lewis Hamilton second, and of course the man, the myth, the legend. Well, you can't call him Mr. Saturday anymore, right? George Russell and getting fastest lap, Rob. So a solid,
Mm.
complete domination of the race. And I have to say, the last three races have shown some very good strategies from Mercedes. Mercedes have been owning the now they haven't. Oh yes, I know Max won a few, but just saying that at least their strategies in the last three races, to me at least, especially with the pitting and tire changing and whatnot, has been great.
Mm.
Has been top form and well done, Russell. And I have to say kudos to Hamilton. To me, he slowed down, Rob. I don't know about you. He slowed down and let Russell take it. I have 103. Why not? Go ahead, pal. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I don't know. I think I really expected heading into that race Hamilton to win it all. I think I predict, or that was my expectation last
Yeah.
Thursday when we had a chat, and he's obviously got a great record there. I don't think second's anything to be disappointed about, but I don't know. He's got one race this weekend to maintain that streak of at least one win in each season he's been in F1. So can he do it? Let's find out. But I mean, Mercedes have looked really great the last three races. Lewis has had 3 consecutive second places, and George has been in the top 5 in those 3 races too. So I think they're the clear favourite for me heading into Abu Dhabi. See what pace looks like on practice, but they're looking really strong, the Mercedes.
Yeah. But I think Max has a very good record at Abu Dhabi, if I'm not mistaken. I think he has a very good record there. But I mean, based on the way Mercedes are playing, you just never know.
You don't.
Yeah, so let's see how that goes. Of course, we have the constructor standings up here. Yeah, so Red Bull on top, no surprise. Surprise. Ferrari. I don't know. I mean, Baron, if something, I mean, it's a little tight, Rob. If
Yeah.
Ferrari dropped, let's say what, 8 or 10, or just don't finish at all, but that's unlikely. But at least finish 10 to 8, and Mercedes do that again at 1-2. You never know.
You just don't know. I think, 20 points, it's possible, definitely. It definitely is. All it takes is one DNF and then a low points finish for Ferrari to choke. So I give them the edge, but I don't give them a big edge by any means to take second.
Yeah.
It'll be close. And as I said, the way Mercedes are driving at the moment, they can easily snatch second place.
I agree. I definitely agree. Alpine looking. You think Oman dry or no?
Pardon me?
Alpine looking safe-ish, not too safe. Again, the same scenarios. If some bad driving, DNF, something happen, they could be in trouble.
Yeah, I think a lot of that is really dependent on if McLaren come fourth. Danny Rick finishing in the top half of the points or around 5th or 6th, which we saw him do the other week.
Right.
And that's a big if. And second of all, Alonso to have another DNF, which is also an if.
Yes.
So I reckon if both of those happen and Norris and Ocon drove their normal drives, then it's possible. But I do think 19 points is a lot for a mid-table team to overcome in one race.
Yeah, I think so. And Danny Rick has not been super consistent. So
No.
I mean, I'm not counting him up, but he has not been super consistent.
He hasn't. No, he had a great drive in Mexico, a sound drive in Singapore, but that was really it. That's kind of been it for his season. Hasn't really been too much of a factor for the most part. Otherwise,
yeah, fully agree. Just last table looking at here. So of course, well, we know Max has won. So congratulations again to Max and the Red Bull team on their constructor and racing championships. And of course, Charles Leclerc and Perez are neck and neck, literally 290 points. Wow. So either way, it doesn't matter to me who gets it. I mean, I'll be glad. Worse yet now, I guess, because of last week, maybe Perez, just because of what happened last weekend. But Charles did fight hard. He should have won. He should have been the one first if it wasn't for some bad calls from the team. But shout out to Perez and Leclerc, and hopefully they give us a really good finish. I think that's the main that, and maybe seeing Lewis win and maybe Vettel finishing pretty high. I think that's what most people want. Rob, anything you would like before the for this last race?
Look, I think for me, I'm not too concerned about ultimately who comes second or third. I think both are deserving to win. And like you said, Leclerc, he should have put this away races and races ago. Like it was almost beyond doubt he'd be trying to fight out second place after 4 or 5 races. So I'm not too bothered either way. I think Red Bull would love to see a 1-2 to kind of exact that dominance over the field that Mercedes had so many years before.
Well, some of Red Bull, but we move. Sorry to interrupt you. Some of Red Bull. I thought that would have been something Red Bull, like clearly not. But go ahead, Rob. Go ahead. Sorry to be so rude.
And I think like Leclerc, if he can take second, awesome result. Along with if he comes in the top 3, I think that should be enough. Hopefully to see Ferrari into second in the constructors. I don't think it'll be enough to save Binotto's job, though. It seems like he's as good as gone from what I'm reading at the moment, which is disappointing. But I guess when you're expected to do much better than how the season turned out for Ferrari, things have got to change. So, and then I guess if we go a little bit further down, if the battle for 5th and 6th, that's not over. But I mean, there's a lot of small midfield battles, both in the constructors and the drivers, that are really going to interest me because it's so open down there. And, one position on the table means millions and millions more dollars the next season to invest in the car and operations. So, that could be the difference between Haas, being able to put forward a decent car if they came 8th as opposed to 9th in their battle with AlphaTauri. And then I think, is it Alfa Romeo and Aston Martin are also locked in a battle as well in the constructors? But a lot of drivers also fighting out for in the low 10s at the moment too. So it'll be really interesting. I just think for me personally, would love to see Seb, finish on a high. I'm not sure if a podium's within reach for him, but it'd be great to see him up and around the high points for his last race, and then. We're also saying goodbye to Danny Rick, Mick, Nick Latifi. So lots of farewells, and hopefully a few results for those outgoing folks.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, Latifi, I just said Rick, and of course Seb. But Rick potentially, if he doesn't take the or if he might just be a reserve driver, same thing maybe for Latifi as well too. So yes, it's an emotional Sunday as well too, because of course we know the great career that Seb had. So and I think Seb was one of the few drivers that broke Mercedes' dominance, right, when he won some of his championships. So it's gonna be a very emotional Sunday for a lot of F1 fans. Even if you're not a big fan of Vettel, which I don't know how you can be, you're still it's gonna be an emotional one. And of course, no Latifi, no Rick. So it's gonna be very, very interesting. I just want to share this really quickly, and then we could move on, because I think it's important for fantasy wise too. So I have here the list and lineup so far for next season. So obviously certain things won't change and certain things have changed. So of course you have Max and Perez, big surprise. Of course, still a Red Bull. Well, for now, right? Sunday could change that. Charles and Sainz for Ferrari, Lewis and George for Mercedes, Esteban Ocon and Pierre Gasly for Alpine.
It will be interesting to see how those two gel next year. A lot of talk around their existing relationship not being the friendliest terms they're on. Who knows how that will affect their driving against one another. We've seen how frustrations have boiled over in other teams, not just this year, but in the past. And if they can move past that, I reckon they're a decent shout for 4th again in the constructors. That's a strong lineup, and if they put out a car similar to how they've presented this year, then everything kind of would line up for that 4th. I think McLaren, though, it'll be those two teams fighting it out for 4th. I don't think either team are going to be able to contend with the top 3, but I think the experienced pairing of Ocon and Gasly favors them over Norris and Piastri, at least for me.
Yeah, I think that's a great combo. Because is not those they are not. I mean, yes, Ocon is technically the second driver to Alonso, but I think this is a very strong pair and very, very, very strong pair, and they could
Yeah,
cause some trouble. And great for fantasy. Good to know we have some good options from Alpine. So they might be a good constructor shout for next season. You never know.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm a huge fan of Gasly as well, so I would love to find an
Yeah.
excuse to get him into my team next year if the Alpine looks good in preseason.
Yeah, I think they're already gonna start testing immediately after the race on Sunday in Abu Dhabi. There's some testing scheduled. So some of these guys will get a chance to test out the equipment. So of course,
Yeah.
McLaren, Lando Norris, and Oscar Piastri. Yeah, I don't know. Thoughts?
I don't know. I think Piastri is under a lot of pressure, even if McLaren don't say otherwise, just because of the seat and the team he's going into. I know Zach Brown said we'll give him something like half a season to get comfortable, but they're going to expect results. And for someone who's had 2 or 3 consecutive wins in the lower tiers of motor racing, I think he comes with high expectations. It's a shame for him to supplant Danny Rick, because as an Australian, I'd love to see as many Aussies on the grid as possible. But I'm really looking forward to seeing how Oscar goes next year. I think there's going to be a lot of pressure from McLaren, at least, to see how he performs.
Yeah, McLaren, one of those teams that should have been doing way better. They didn't start well at all. They're now getting some good form here. So hopefully that can be fixed and they can do better next season. Alfa Romeo, of course, Bottas and Guan Yu Zhou. Decent pairing. It went terrible. Guan Yu Zhou to me, he had a decent season. I don't want to be too harsh on him. I think he had a very good season. And Bottas started well, but now and teetered off a bit and now trying to get now doing okay. So maybe next season they can have some better chemistry, and you never know, finish a little higher there, Rob.
Pardon me?
I'm just saying they could probably finish a little higher next season if they work on a few things.
Yeah.
Because they weren't bad, they weren't terrible. It was a nice pairing.
No.
It was just some unfortunate events. So again, for Guan Yu Zhou, some unlucky accidents and stuff like that. Thank God he was safe in that big one the other day. But yeah, it wasn't too bad at all. It wasn't too bad, but at least from Zhou.
No, I think for Zhou, he's had a solid but not spectacular season. He's had a couple of points finishes, and I really like the pairing they put with the experienced Bottas. I definitely think they'll do well again next year. And as you say, to your point, Bottas had a really strong start. He seems to have rediscovered a bit of that in the last few races, and I think he should drive well. It's just a shame their car hasn't been as reliable at times, and that's probably why Zhou hasn't been able to put forward as many good performances as hoped. But in any event, I'd like to think they'll be in and around the top half of the bottom half of the grid, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I saw what you mean. Yeah. Aston Martin, very interesting one. Lance Stroll and Fernando Alonso. Very, very interesting. We know how Alonso could be. We know he's still highly competitive at his age, still doing it well. But and Lance Stroll not a terrible driver. He is just, I don't know, it just hasn't been a great season for him. I mean, he had a decent-ish start, and recently now, I'm getting some decent top 10 finishes as well. So hopefully, they could do something, add some magic to that can with that pairing, could battle Alpine and McLaren. You never know.
Yeah. I think for me, without seeing how they go in preseason, they're probably going to be my surprise package. I think there's a lot there. Alonso obviously brings a lot to the team, and we've seen what he's done this year with an Alpine. And there's been talk that there's even more reinvestment into the car and to their facility. So really looking forward to seeing how that goes, particularly with all the money that Stroll has obviously piled in the last few years. It would be nice to see for him a better result than 7th or 8th. But again, the two drivers that seem to have had issues in the past with their teammates. So I'm really curious to see how things go with both of them, because we've seen Alonso get frustrated with Ocon. We've seen Stroll, piss off one or two of his teammates in the past. So wait and see, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. It's all about the chemistry. We'll see.
Definitely.
And um, now I already have my future. My turbo driver for 2023 is in this team, right?
Right.
So K-Mag, I want to stick with him. And I have another one. I have an alternate one we'll talk about in the next team. But K-Mag and Nico Hulkenberg will be under a lot of pressure, I think, going into this one. He has a lot to prove. And we've seen that a Haas constructor can do something. It is not the worst vehicle by any means necessary. And if they get the proper upgrades and stuff and testing goes well and preseason goes well, you never know. I don't expect them to be battling for mid-table, but at least trying to stay within the top 10, especially in that constructor series. You never know.
Yeah.
I think this is a decent pairing here.
Yeah, definitely. Again, another team that's got two drivers that have previously had beef with one another joining forces. So I think again they'll be a team to mix it up down in that half of the grid. Really interested to see how they go. But Magnussen's proven this year that that car can get into Q3 on more than one occasion, and
Yes, yes.
I don't think Hulkenberg is too dissimilar of a driver. Both experienced, both aggressive and unrelenting, and I think they'll certainly overperform relative to this season's
Yeah.
points anyway.
Right. And of course, we have Yuki Tsunoda and Nick DeVries. Rob, telling you from now, Nick DeVries and KMR are gonna be my ultimate turbo drivers. I tell you, I think I mean, we saw. No, it was a different vehicle, obviously, but we saw what he could do. We saw what he's capable of doing. Now, is an AlphaTauri, it's not the quickest thing in the world, but I think he will, especially in the qualifying, he's gonna rack up some very vital points. I think he's gonna be key, and I can't wait to see him on the track. I can't wait to see him with a full season. I'm getting a George Russell vibe. Maybe not as great as George Russell because obviously the cars are different, but just in terms of the unexpected season that they had, because I doubt anyone expected George to do as great as he did. I think
Yeah.
Nick DeVries is going to come in and do the same thing. I don't know what you think, Rob. Am I really
Yeah,
delusional?
definitely agree. He's got that potential. I really liked, and I think a lot of people would agree, liked what they saw at Monza when he deputized for Albon. And in an AlphaTauri, I don't know, the car this year wasn't amazing. And I think Gasly's performances, relatively speaking, are a reflection of that.
Mhm.
And I think Sonoda next year is his last year really to prove himself as an F1 driver. I don't think he's got more than a 1-year contract. So a lot of expectation on both of their shoulders, and let's see what happens.
And of course, last but certainly not least, Williams. We have Alex Albon and Logan Sargent. I don't know much about Sargent. I'll have to do the research for the next season. I don't know if you know much, but I mean, let's see what Albon was very quiet this season. Quiet, quiet, quiet. I was expecting a
Yeah,
little more from him. He's very quiet. Very,
yeah, he
I was
was. He definitely had a couple of seasons where, pardon me,
yeah, sorry.
um, Albon Albon had a couple. Albon had a couple of really good races, but they are like sprinkled in between. There's nothing really that stands out to me from his season. The only one it was really that race in Australia where he went the whole race on one set of tires until the very last lap. So I really think he'll have to put in more of an effort. Not more of an effort, but expect a few more big drives from him. As for Sargent, I don't know a lot about him either. I know he's a Formula 2 driver, has had some success in those lower divisions over the years, but again, in an environment next year where there isn't a great deal of pressure on him to immediately deliver, but notwithstanding that, I think there'll be some expectation, and I'm really excited to see an American driver on the grid. There hasn't been one for a while, and I think that will just add some diversity to not just the racing style, but maybe also just the grid itself.
Yeah. Also, we might get more fans. You never know. Most people
Definitely.
might tune in. Because it'll be great to. I think the best market of Formula One will be like some South American drivers and more Central American. If they get those
Mm.
kind of people in, oh my goodness, I think it will be. I think they'll get a lot more fan. The fan, but it's growing. The fan base to me this season. I think a lot more people. I know I've done my part. I've got a lot of people to join who never ever watch F1 race in their life, and I'm
Yeah,
glad for that. And I hope we could build it even more next season.
yeah,
So yeah,
definitely,
I'm
definitely.
sure on your end, I'm sure you got some friends on your end. Rob, like, hey, what's this stuff? Especially now that you have your content going on on Twitter. I'm sure you've got people to chime in on what you
Yeah,
thought.
yeah, no. I mean, I only started the Twitter page this year, and there's been a bit of uptake, so it's really encouraging for next year. A few things in the works, a couple of things I've mentioned to you about what that could consist of. So, really excited to see it, evolve. And I think with just the growth of the sport internationally, we've got I was just looking at the numbers this week. There's 1.6 million playing F1 fantasy
Ooh, nice.
this year. There was 1.1 last year and less than a million the year before that. So this is only its fourth year that the game's been live. And you look at a sport like Fantasy Premier League, for example, where you've got 10 million plus players. Only like 5 years ago, it was half that number. So
Yeah.
if you're following the growth trajectory of this sport, relatively speaking, it's a much steeper curve for F1 than it was for football. So in 5 years, like we could, for all intents and purposes, have 5, 6, 7 million people playing this game, and anything's possible at the rate of growth.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, I have one of my good colleagues who plays FPL. He's very good, actually. Of at least 10 top gear finishes. He is interested in joining F1 Fantasy next season. I said, well, yes, come through. You're gonna enjoy it. He's already started doing research. He's watching our stuff as well too. So of course, I'll put him on to you for next season.
Thanks,
Because
mate.
of course, no, your research helps a lot. Trust me, it helps. It reduces my work for me when I'm making my team. But of course, I still go against the green and pick some craziness as always.
Look, I'll have to do a special edition turbo driver for the Magnusons, the De Vries, the Hulkenbergs, just for you, mate.
Yeah, I need those stats, bro. I need those stats because I like to, and it pays off. It really pays off sometimes. I
Definitely,
mean, come on.
definitely.
All right. So, of course, guys, this weekend is Abu Dhabi, almost said Brazil, Abu Dhabi, right? Marina Bay GP circuit. And back to an early hours, Rob. So, of course, I always have to let you guys know that Friday race weekend always starts on a Friday, the 18th. So, we have at 6 a.m. We have practice one, that's on this side of the world, EST. And then, of course, we have practice two at 9 a.m. EST. On the 19th, the Saturday, we have practice three at 6:30 a.m. EST. And of course, qualifying starts at 10 a.m. Race day, the most important day, Sunday, 9 a.m. EST. So it's not too bad. I mean, you could get up for 9 o'clock and taking some racing. There's no football to worry about. And of course, we will take as I said, Abu Dhabi. The first Grand Prix here was back in 2009. So some short laps, not 71 like last week, 58 laps. Of course, Max Verstappen, who was the fastest lap record from last season. And of course, we know that this race was uneventful and nothing at all happened out of the ordinary last season, Rob. It was a very smooth race, Rob. Right, Rob? Nothing.
No, nothing happened. Don't know what you're talking
Nothing.
about.
It was super smooth. Cruise well, Max. Max Verstappen deserved his win. But yeah, it was a brilliant. It was hopefully it is not as dramatic. Hopefully the FIA remember their rules and everything. They have been remembering the rules throughout the season. Day one, Bahrain, they had to remember. So hopefully they remember the rules and everything goes smooth. And hopefully a certain teammate, Rob, can allow another certain teammate to get his points to finish second in the race. We saw that Christian Horner said that he will help him out. Let's see.
Let's see.
Let's see. There are two DRS detection zones. I won't go too deeply. Michael is very good at this, but of course, there are two DRS detection zones. We see that straight from 1 to 2 is pretty straight, so not too bad. There's a turn from 2 to 4 there, another straight to 5, and then a nice long straight all the way to 6. Speed trap there, so probably a good chance for overtaking. 6 and 7, some corners there, going all the way down another DRS section zone between 7 and 8. So again, if you could have at least overtake from 5 to 6, and then the detection zone, there might be some nice battles there, and then of course all the way down to 9, turn into 10, 11, corner there on 12 to 14, going up again 15 to 16, not too bad, and all the way back to start the race again. So of course this should be a great race. There's a lot to look out for. We are hoping that Vettel does well. We are hoping that Perez could at least come second. At least he deserves it. Charles Sewer, but Perez really worked hard, and especially after last weekend, I want to give it to him. And of course, we hope that, for me at least, I hope that Alpine could secure that constructor place of fourth. We know that they, as you rightfully said earlier, they get a lot of money. I did not know it was so much, Rob. They get a lot of money for finishing very high in the constructor race. So at least to finish fourth, it will definitely help with any upgrades that may need to or will need, even me, will have to take place for next season to give them that edge. Now, of course, Rob, let's discuss this very quickly. Let me show. So this is how I did, Rob, last week. Turbo Drive Hamilton held on to Verstappen and Team One. Held on to I had Alpine because I mean Alpine is doing well. I turbo drive Latifi, as you see, but I got green numbers.
Yes, you did. You did. A great turbo drive choice on Team One, Mega Drive choice on Team One, and a Mega Drive choice on Team Three. Like, brilliant selections there. Mercedes really came up trumps for you.
Yeah. It was that, or at least maybe Mega Drive a mid-table, because I wasn't feeling Red Bull. I really wasn't feeling Red Bull, right? And it was either maybe Mega Drive the two Mercedes, or Mega Drive maybe Alpine or something like that. But paid off trumps as well, and mostly green numbers except for the McLaren constructor. That was a bit disappointing because it's a big blemish on my Team 3. My Team 3 is looking great. Bottas got me green numbers. Perez, Sainz, even Vettel. Vettel Turbo Drive was not bad. Shout did well.
Not bad.
So I'm not too sure if I'll change much. But how things were you on your end, Rob, for your team?
My team was sound, but not spectacular. I had the real letdown was actually my Red Bull constructor. I mean, 42 points in any normal week is not bad at all. But the fact that the Mercedes 1-2 and then the 3-4 from Ferrari, both of the drivers from both of the teams finished above Red Bull. So it was, going to be a tough week to kind of claw back a few of those points. Thankfully for me, the Mercedes assets are pretty low owned for the most part. So the rank hit was actually not bad at all. I went from 2.7 to 3.2, I think it was.
Nice.
So only 500 ranks dropped. Other than that, my turbo driver on Sainz was good. Leclerc and Hamilton, I was agonizing over the two, and I went with Leclerc. Wish I'd gone with Hamilton, considering I didn't make a single trade last week. And then Bottas and Alonso, they had about 20 points apiece. So not a bad week, but not an amazing week. And I think given that a lot of people who didn't use their Mega Driver on Verstappen in Singapore, or was it Japan? Sorry, I think it might have been Japan.
Yeah.
Chose to save it for Interlagos, meant that his underwhelming race worked in favor, and probably was a big reason why my rank didn't take as bad of a hit in a race week like that. So I had something like 230, 240 points. So nice. Solid. I was pleased with it.
Damn, that's pretty good. Yeah. That's pretty good. Now, of course, look, moving forward. Before we even do that, I was just checking. If you saw me scrolling a bit there, I was just checking some of the past races, and I think that 40-something is the lowest Red Bull has done, at least in the last 5 races, fantasy-wise. Because if we check it out, at least 70s and up, or at least 60s and up. So that was what, 42, right? 40, right? So 42 points. So let's look at, so Mexico was 77. If we look at the United States, I think, right, 89. I'm sorry, 69, right? Still better than 42, right? Japan, right? So you see, it wasn't, so they were, I think that was the lowest fantasy return, at least for the last 5. Not for the entire, because of course they did DNF a few races in the 30s, but so for the last few.
I've got my model up on the screen, which has all of the historical scores, and they last scored, Silverstone, they scored 42, which was their equal lowest point scores since Brazil. or prior to Brazil, should I say. They had 31 in Canada, and that was because Perez DNF'd. But, they're consistently hitting above 50, 60, 70 points. So that was bad by their standards.
Yes.
But, you would take that, given Ferrari have, had a bit of a mixed bag this second half of the season. I'm looking at their scores. They had 72 last week, which was an excellent result for them, but they're getting 38, 29, 32, a couple of 50s, and those 50s are above average for them. So the fact that Red Bull came away with 42 and was a bad weekend is no mean feat. So I think they'll score high again this weekend.
Yeah, I think so too as well. What's your plans, though? Antonio, welcome. Thanks for jumping in.
Anytime.
Right, as you always come in time for the fantasy talk, boy. How you did, boy? How you did? You getting a jersey?
You gotta tell me.
I just see how that look. How you did? How you finish off?
I made. Well, but for the competition between us and Fantasy Pavilion, I'm opening it now.
I need to work on that rank next season, Rob. My rank not too hot. I'll work on that next season.
It's all right, mate.
Yeah,
With a few extra you change it Mega Driver every other week, and you'll be top 200. Mark my words.
I'm telling you. Yeah, when the breeze, are we still on the breeze?
Yeah. So
what's your game plan for next week, though, Rob? What's your plan? What's the big strategy? What are we thinking? So all max.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I'm in two minds because Red Bull are consistently the best constructor to own, but race streak for Ferrari and the way Mercedes are driving at the moment makes it a much harder decision for me than I think I'd like it to be. But certain moves I'll be making is bringing in George Russell. George is on a double streak, a race and a quali streak, so he will be in my team, as you can see on your team 3. He's got those 2 flames, and I think a lot of people will be getting him into their team 1 because of the extra 15 points that those streaks afford. He's got a pretty impeccable qualifying record and has finished in the top 10 in just about every race he's finished this season. I think in every race he's finished this season, or almost everyone. So he'll be in my team. Leclerc I'm keeping because he's on that race streak, and Sainz I'm going to turbo drive, so I'll be keeping him too. So that really leaves Bottas and Alonso. I think both of those I'm really undecided because if I keep Red Bull, I'll probably keep them both. If I don't keep Red Bull, then I will likely move to Ferrari, and that would mean upgrading one of those 2, probably George Russell, and downgrading, say, the other 2 a budget driver. So a bit to think about, and I will probably wait to see practice times before I make my final call on that. But at the moment, it's looking like Russell is a certainty to come into my team this weekend.
Yeah, I like that. So let's show there. I don't really have any big plans, and I feel I might leave it as is. Maybe just the McLaren constructor on the last team there. Maybe take out Norris, only because I know Norris has to battle for his life to try and see if McLaren could finish. Might be a good show. Always good to put it on the battlers, but then next thing they go too hard and then accidents happen or something, you know. But I think I will. I think I'm fairly happy. I mean, especially as the CFI potential last race, better last race. I'm happy with keeping everyone and seeing what they do. I think I'd be happy with that.
Yeah, I think this is a race where, and there's been a few people who have said this already, it's the last race of the season. There's mini leagues to be won. There's ranks to be chased. I think, this is a race, if you're behind, to certainly have a punt. Go for a driver that you wouldn't usually pick. Russell's a great example of that, and it helps that he's got that streak. Hamilton for a few others, and even some of those mid-table drivers that you don't usually have in your team. Last year, Sonoda, even though he's been unreliable, came 4th, and a lot of that result was ultimately overshadowed by the Hamilton-Verstappen fallout. But Sonoda, he had a great race here last year. Ricardo's last race. I know he's got a 3-place grid penalty, so I'd probably steer clear of him.
Yeah.
Schumacher, Vettel. I want to see Vettel win. So if there's space in my team for him, I will definitely consider getting him in. He's had, a really good season from a fantasy perspective. Just looking at his scores here, like 10, 13, 22, 25, 17, like those last 5 scores for a driver priced at 10.4 million, like that's sensational value. So I think if there's space for Vettel, like get him into your team, one last swan song.
Yeah, with that. Antonio, I give any last comment there. What's your plans? What's the game plan? And I know you have to try and keep Michael off your back. What's the game plan? And Rob, if you don't know, right, we have a competition amongst ourselves. You'll be in that next season, right? We have a competition amongst the team. Whoever wins, we have to get them a F1 jersey of their favorite or whatever. So of course, it's $1 million already. So but so I have to sell a kidney to provide. But yeah, so Antonio has been leading the pack convincingly for the majority of the season. Yeah, so he should win. So I don't know. What's your game plan for staying on top and winning a Bottas jersey, Antonio?
Yeah. All right, let me show you my team quick.
Yeah, no problem, man. Right, so you see the kind of friends I have. We're about to buy a Bottas jersey for this guy. I mean, what kind of life is that?
So the middle list team 2 is the team that I'm in the competition with.
Okay.
So I made 355 last race.
Let's see. Oh, you Mega Drive Russell, right? Very good.
Wow, that's big.
Yeah, very good. And Turbo Drive Science. Wow. Okay.
That is a huge week. The 355. Yeah.
Yeah, not bad at all.
So I have Bottas, Norris, and Schumacher, Russell. I'm thinking I'm gonna keep my team as is, or I think I might drop Norris for Alonso, and probably upgrade Schumacher. But Schumacher has been getting a lot of overtaking points. As last race, even in the when they had, although they didn't count for points, but when they had the sprint, prior to the sprint, he had 7 overtakes. So I'm looking at that because that's points for the fantasy. Bottas raced pretty well coming on to the end. So, and that he has been my go-to guy for ever since I talked about F1, and Jared has stuck me with him since then. So I have to back him until. So yeah, Turbo Drive Science, that's probably the best move right now, because
definitely.
So yeah, that's most likely me. I don't know about McLaren, so that's why I feel like if I wouldn't say downgrade Norris, but like if I get Alonso in, because Alonso is consistent right now, and the Alpine car has been showing consistency, so I think I'll go for Alonso and upgrade it. So get Schumacher. That's for the next race, and that should hold Michael up, because I think right now, if I'm not mistaken, where is this league?
Yeah, I don't know how you're. I think most likely, but I know he's second for sure. You're up on your tail for sure.
No, I think I pushed them off. I pushed them off a bit. I'm looking for the league thing.
Go the third one from that one.
Okay. All right. So I wish I was using this team to play any competitions. I entered my first team and my third team for most of these competitions, and the second team, the team that actually doing pretty well. Oh, so this is it here. Yeah. So.
Oh, okay, not bad.
I'm like 190 points, so it's probably gonna take a lot for him to catch up with the last race. So I'm pretty confident in the win in the end.
Michael's still got his Mega Driver chip though, so if you remind him to use it, could be on.
Yeah.
Oh, he didn't use his Mega Drive yet. Oh boy. Oh boy, yeah. So that might edge, yeah, if you use on the right person.
If you use on the right person,
yeah.
True.
Yeah, you'd have to pick the winner, I think, to make up 100 points in one weekend. But I think, looking like you've got that one in the bag.
Yeah, I think you're more than safe. I think so. So we will sort that out, and you'll get your winner's jacket or jersey. For
I
sure.
actually think there's sale right now on like the F1 side.
Yes, there is sale actually, yes. And there's also a special there's also like if you had looked to your left there under the league, if your screen you don't bring up your screen, but if you look on your screen right now, to the left, there's a section where you can win some stuff. They have a competition going on right now. Just like how they have all the fantasies, they have a fantasy league going on. If you win, you can win some merch, a voucher for some merch. So that would be cool. But yeah, guys, we could sign off there. I want to thank Rob for coming through. I want to thank Antonio for coming through. Better late than never. Always appreciate it, bro. And yes, guys, don't forget we will be at Island Bay Chill and Grill this Sunday for sadly, is it sad to say? Sorry, not the last season finale, right? Let's say season finale for the season, the epic season finale this Sunday, the 20th at Island Bay, 9 a.m. race. Lights go out. And then, of course, right after that, we have Qatar playing Ecuador in the first match of the 2022 World Cup. Of course, we will be your home for fantasy sports, covering everything as best as possible for that tournament. Our league is already live. You can check out Instagram, Twitter for the league code. And yeah, I want to thank everyone. It was a great season, our first full F1 season. I did not think, Antonio, that we would be doing F1 when we first started the channel since last year. I mean, look at us now. So it's a bit. I'm not gonna cry, but it's a little emotional to run through as a new channel of first year and to cover all this, and of course meeting Rob and some other guy. And Rob, thanks so much for always sticking with us and coming through. And hopefully we have a full next season of content, especially with you as well too on your channel, right? Your upcoming channel as well, and your plans as well, all your endeavors. And of course, please guys go follow him on Twitter. He has great helpful threads, really, really helpful threads. Not just saying that because it is really, really helpful. I always glance at them to help me out in picking my craziness, and it works. So please, and I know he's gonna tailor some for me special next season, of course. Do some extra research just for me, and I appreciate that. But no, serious thing, check him out, our great friend. And I want to thank everyone, thank the team, Michael. Sorry, he couldn't be here tonight. Everyone that made this season possible. And we will see you all in the next one. We might do a season review show, might as well. Maybe next week we'll do one just to look back at the F1. Of course, to congratulate Antonio on his pending win. So I want to thank everyone. Don't forget, stay tuned for a lot more content. Thankfully, there's no FPL. Cricket is over. F1 will be over. So we'll just focus on World Cup content. And yeah, have fun. And we'll see you all happy picking me or Turbo Driver come first. Or if you still have the Mega Driver chip, may they come first as well. And hopefully, a certain teammate come second in the constructor standard. We'll see no more on that. I want to thank everyone, and that's it from us. Take care, guys. Have a great weekend. Take care.